Hi, my name is Reed Silverne. The name of this show is Fed Pride. The reason it's called Fed Pride is because I'm a federal worker, retired, and proud of it. I am my own engineer, and as you can see, I have the Earth behind me, and of course that is Google Earth. And today I'm going to be concentrating on a state that many of you are familiar with, that is Arizona. And also, I'm also saying that for me today is April 30th. I'm going to be referring to events as if they just happened. But for you, they will have happened a minimum of 5 days ago. If you watch this on Tuesday, I believe that would be May 4th, or on Thursday, May 6th, or Tuesday or Thursday the following week. And that's because even though I'm live to tape, for you, I'm not live. So everything I say is bound to be obsolete and so old that you're going to laugh about somebody talking about current events that are so out of date and not current. Usually I solve that problem by talking about an issue that is not current, or else an issue that's so obscure like finance, derivatives, and things like that, that nobody could possibly care about them. So if they're a few days out of date, you wouldn't even know the difference. However, today I'm going to talk about the Arizona immigration bill. I just came from 2 weeks on a business trip to the other side of the country, and of course, when I'm on travel, I come back to the hotel, I watch TV, I travel to and from the office or whatever spot that I'm assisting in, and I listened, of course, to talk radio. And it seemed like one of the big topics in talk radio was Arizona. And Arizona usually doesn't make the national news that much, but it seems to be dominating. And what's dominating is a law that got passed and eventually signed by the governor of Arizona, Ms. Brewer. And I personally was kind of shocked that she signed it, not because of the anti-immigrant side of it, but because of a little clause in there that said that anybody or any agency that a citizen or a citizen's group feels is not following the law, the right is given, or is actually mandated to the citizens group to sue the city, town, or agency that is not following this law. And if the city loses, they have to pay the court costs of the winner. Of course, on TV, it was done in reverse because about a day or two afterward, I'm watching Anderson Cooper 360 on CNN, and Anderson Cooper is talking to Arizona State Senator Kavanaugh, who's a jolly-looking guy, with a white mustache and white hair, and looks a little bit like Wilford Brimley, the guy who does the ads about diabetes on TV, on daytime TV. And he was asked about this clause that allowed lawsuits against the cities. Now, cities, towns, states, etc., are in dire straits right now, including police departments, sheriff's departments, counties, you name it. And they really can't afford a whole big pile of lawsuits. And in the middle of this bill, or, in an obscure clause, there's a clause written in it that allows anybody who feels that illegal immigrants aren't aggressively pursued enough can sue whatever agency he or she or the organization feels is not aggressively pursuing it. Now, it ends up that things being as it may, that an individual group that was backing the bill apparently wrote this clause in. That group is called the Federation for American Immigration Reform, and they're famous for suing local agencies, the federal government, and everybody else for not aggressively arresting or addressing the issue of illegal immigrants. Now, that particular group is not just after illegal immigrants, I'll get into that later, but also legal immigration. They want to cut it off completely. And they're actually, even though they're considered mainstream anti-immigration, they're pretty radical. And so we'll get into that in a little bit. But meanwhile, Kavanaugh was asked about that, and Kavanaugh's answer was kind of interesting to me because he said, oh, but in there is a clause that says the loser has to pay the legal bills of the winner. So if there's a frivolous lawsuit, people won't put it through because they'll have to pay the legal bills of the winner. However, it ends up, after some research and listening to other pundits and so on and so forth, that FAIR, which is one of these legal advocacy groups that sues people left and right, has had to pay their own legal bills, and they're looking forward to having the city pay their legal bills and their staff lawyers after they beat them on these sites or on these suits. However, things may or may not work out that way. The city of Phoenix, especially Mayor Gordon there, the city of Tucson, Mayor Walkup, are very, very concerned about this clause, and they're actually bringing the entire SB 1070, which is the name of this anti-immigration bill, to federal court to see, or I'm not sure whether I have to go to the state courts first, to see if the entire law is constitutional. So, and again, a whole bunch of outside groups have brought suits. And what's very interesting is a Tucson Police Department 15-year cop named Martin H. Escobar. He himself is leading a group that's filing suit against the law as well. Anybody who was in California during the Prop 187 controversy, which basically said that, if an illegal alien comes in with tuberculosis, he can't be treated in a county hospital, and illegal alien kids can't go to school. It even had a clause that said legal citizen children of illegal aliens couldn't go to school. That went straight to court, and I believe it never in its entirety was put into fruition or into effect. However, the effect was really great because what happened was the Republican Party in California lost almost every election. They lost the governorship under a guy named Pete Wilson, who supported Prop 187. The Republicans were swept out of the House and Senate in the state legislatures, and a lot of Republicans lost their positions in everything but the safest Republican districts in Orange County and a few other places. And the reason was because, hey, what a surprise, Hispanics felt that even though that particular law was directed against illegal aliens, that they would be impacted. And of course, if that law had passed, they would be impacted because the agency that dealt with them, the Department of Motor Vehicles, the hospitals, the county hospitals, the social workers, and so on and so forth, were required to determine immigration status before they could serve anybody. However, the wink and the nod was that if you were white or black, or you looked American, or you didn't have much of an accent, you would be assumed to be not an immigrant. Well, that didn't pass muster, and this one was very similar. So, I'll also discuss that today, which for me is Friday, April 30th, they just passed a bill. It wasn't an amendment to the bill that was signed, but actually supersedes it to change some of the language in the bill. And what the bill basically said, outside of this little clause that any group, left or right or center, could sue every city, town, and county, which in these days of recession is probably a pretty bad idea right there, that basically on reasonable suspicion in a police contact, although not based solely, and the quotes are solely on national origin, race, religion, and so on and so forth, a policeman can demand proof of citizenship. And if somebody is unable to produce that, they're assumed to be an illegal alien. And if they are, they can be detained until they can be turned over to the customs enforcement. And of course, the thing came around is that not solely based on national origin. Does that mean that you can do it on national origin? If, for instance, somebody is loitering, or somebody has a light that's out, or somebody in a car of somebody who does have a driver's license can't demonstrate their proof of citizenship on the spot, didn't look good. So meanwhile, the Hispanic organizations are just going nuts. On national TV, and even down there in Florida, where I was on a business trip, Hispanics of every type, Cuban Americans who've been citizens for 3 generations, or at least 2, were saying, I'm never going to go to Arizona. Boycotts were starting up. At least one conference was canceled in Scottsdale. There were threats that if the Diamondbacks played somewhere that they would be demonstrated against, or the Phoenix Suns, or whatever. So it looks like it's definitely bad publicity for the state, one way or the other. The other interesting thing was the government of Mexico chimed in and made a statement. And ironically enough, because I actually read our government Department of State travel advisories, don't go to Pakistan, for instance, could be dangerous. They wrote an advisory for their travelers, don't go to Arizona. And anybody who's been to the Tucson Mall in Christmas time knows that there is such a thing as day passes, which are granted to upstanding Mexican citizens to drive up to the mall and go buy stuff. And it's part of our economy. So they now have a travel advisory from their government. Whatever you do, don't go to Arizona. You will be harassed. And if you step out of your hotel, if you're visiting Arizona, you can be asked for your Ausweis, your ID, your proof of citizenship, or your proof of residence, or your visa, or your passport, or whatever. Is this in the bill? I'm not sure. I don't think so. But the fact of the matter is, it's true. The U of A, foreign citizens are now canceling their, after they've been accepted into the U of A, don't want to go because they think if they walk out of their dorm room, police are going to go up to them, demand their proof of residency and their right to be there, and if they don't have their student visa documentation on them at any 1 minute, they're going to be detained and arrested and deported. So there's a lot of this kind of misinformation. However, the real information on this bill, the way it was originally written, is not very good either. Basically, the idea is if you had any police contact, even if the police are contacting you because you're a victim of a crime, the way that was written, and not solely on your national origin, if there's any suspicion of not having your or not being a legal citizen or have legal residency, the police can demand your papers and demand your proof of citizenship. Now, in the bill, though, a Arizona ID or a driver's license is considered proof of citizenship. Well, I don't know about you, but in Arizona, your driver's license, I got my driver's license 15 years ago, and I haven't had to update it. And nobody's asking me for my passport or my birth certificate to get my driver's license. They didn't ask me when I got it. And I believe that's because, and I read the MVD, if you have a driver's license or an ID from any other state, no matter what the state law is, it's good in Arizona. So an Arizona driver's license doesn't prove you're a citizen either. So the fact of the matter is, what does that mean for the person in your car if you get pulled over in a routine contact? Do they have to prove that they are citizens? And if they can't, if there's a reasonable suspicion, and what the heck does that mean, can they be detained and taken off to jail and given over to ICE? And then, of course, they'll do some kind of real investigation, find that this guy is a citizen or a legal resident, and let him go. But either way, it's very inconvenient, and people are going to be scared about it. Shakira, the famous singer, one of my favorites, she's over here and meeting with the mayor of Phoenix, who's against the bill, to look into it. And there's panicky stories all over the Spanish press throughout the entire Western Hemisphere, basically saying that whatever you do, you can spend your money and visit America, but avoid Arizona because they will harass you, and if you just don't have your ID on you when you walk out of that hotel, boom, they'll deport you faster than you can blink. Not really what the law says, but this is what they think. So there could very, very well be an economic impact as this belief is spread throughout the entire world. So what did they do about it? What they did is they took out the not solely based on national origin, race, creed, color, and so on and so forth. And they said not. So now reasonable suspicion cannot be based on the color of your skin or your accent or whatever. However, what does that mean? That means to enforce it, now we have to ask for the ID of everybody, because we're not allowed to even have as a factor your national origin, the possibility that because you're Spanish speaking and brown in color, that you might be reasonably suspected of being an illegal alien. Naturally, this is just a legal nightmare, and it's an even worse legal nightmare because any city or town that tries to comply with it is going to be sued by the left and going to be sued, and it's invited to be sued. Even if they enforce it, they might not be enforcing it enough, or some guy can call FAIR and say, there's 3 brown-skinned people loitering on the street. I want the police to go over there and arrest them and check their proof of citizenship and then arrest them for being illegal aliens. So the whole thing is a nightmare for cities and towns. So they also revised the word contact. Because as this TPD policeman that was going to bring suit indicated, people that are being helped are involved in illegal contact by law enforcement. So that means that according to the original state wording of this law, if they had a reasonable suspicion that the person that they're talking to is an illegal alien, maybe they don't speak English, and they're a victim of a crime, they would have to ask them for their proof of citizenship. So they changed it to contact, detention, or arrest. So in the course of investigating a crime or something like that. I don't have the exact words in front of me, and my show is running down. So that's basically what it is, and that's what they adjusted. Now, what surprised me is what they didn't adjust. They didn't adjust the requirement to allow just, right-wing groups like FAIR to sue the city, and then if they won, to be able to actually get their staff lawyers paid by the city. So all that liability, potential liability on the part of the cities and towns, that is still at stake. So it is a big problem, and I don't really know what the answer to it is. So to me, there's already in the 2007 bill, basically you have to prove citizenship to to get help, to get welfare, to put your kids in school and all these other things. Leave it as far as I'm concerned. But this group wanted to make a point right during election year, and they are. And the point is not very positive, at least in my opinion. So the question is, what are we going to do? And the answer is, I don't know. It'd be nice to see basically at least the rule about people being able to sue cities, towns, and local law enforcement, and be able to suck money out of them if these local entities lose. I think that it just invites just unlimited, unnecessary lawsuits that we don't need. And we basically don't have money for in this time of limited budgets and actually collapsing budgets and collapsing taxes. So it is a problem. I wish that the governor had said, if you're going to revise this law, just get rid of that. It's ridiculous in this time to, because some organization likes to sue people, to actually shove that little clause in the law and then put cities and towns at risk. Thank you very much. I really appreciate your watching. This is Fed Pride, and please watch again. Thank you for watching.